into the cold morning air. "I gotta handle some things, but I'll be back, all right?" Melvin said, his voice tense. Fatima nodded, stepping out of the car. As she watched him drive off, a sinking feeling settled in her stomach. She climbed the stairs to her room, the weight of her mother's warnings heavier with each step. Inside, the room felt smaller, the shadows longer. Fatima's heart raced as she slid her hand under the bed, searching for something she hoped she wouldn't find. Her fingers brushed against the cool glass of a gin bottle, and her breath caught. It wasn't just the presence of the bottle that shook her, it was the realization of all that it represented. Melvin wasn't coming back, not tonight, maybe not ever. And the life she'd been clinging to, the future she'd envisioned, seemed as empty and hollow as the bottle hidden under her bed. Tonight had shattered more than just their plans. It had shattered her illusions, leaving Fatima to face the hard truths her mother had tried to warn her about. As she sat there alone, the first rays of dawn casting light on the broken pieces of her dreams, Fatima knew it was time to think about what came next, not just for her, but for her son too. She needed to rise from this, stronger and wiser, but first, she had to accept the reality she had denied for too long. The fall, the sun hadn't even cracked the horizon, but the flashing red and blue lights pierced the dark like warning signs. Fatima sat on the edge of the crumpled hotel bed, her hands trembling as the sound of heavy boots thudded against the thin carpet. It wasn't supposed to end like this. They were supposed to be long gone, money stacked and living somewhere without the echo of sirens. But here she was, cornered and alone, while Melvin was probably cozying up to some other chick, ignorant or indifferent to the chaos unfolding. She'd been played hard. The room was filled with the sharp scent of tension as officers shuffled in, their eyes sharp and assessing. "Fatima Williams?" one of the cops announced, his voice echoing against the sterile walls. "Yeah, that's me," she replied, her voice a mere whisper, drowned out by the pounding in her chest. "We need you to come with us. You have the right to remain silent." The words blurred into the background noise of her crashing world. Handcuffs clicked around her wrists, cold and final. Fatima didn't resist. What was the point? Melvin had made sure all fingers would point to her. As they led her out of the room, her eyes snagged on the glint of metal under the bed. The gun. Melvin's gun. The same one that had terrorized Mr. Davidson during their last robbery. It was all too clear now. Melvin had set her up. The realization was a punch to the gut. The police car ride to the station was a blur of passing lights and Fatima's spiraling thoughts. How could she have been so blind? Melvin had whispered sweet nothings, promises dipped in dreams of a future together, all while plotting her downfall. At the station, the cold, hard truth set in with the cold, hard bench she sat on. Questions flew at her like bullets. Where was Melvin? Who owned the gun? How did Mr. Davidson's blood get on her jacket? With each query, her resolve hardened. No snitching. That was the code of the streets. Melvin had promised he'd have her back, that he'd get her the best lawyer money could buy. She clung to that promise, a lifeline in the turbulent sea of her reality. Days turned into nights and back into days, and the reality of her situation sank in deeper with each tick of the clock in her cell. Fatima's lawyer, a court-appointed stranger, laid it out for her, plead guilty, and maybe, just maybe, the court would go easy on her. "Where's Melvin?" she asked, each time the lawyer visited. hope fading a little more with each shake of his head. "Haven't heard from him," was the refrain, a chorus that echoed the hollow betrayal. By the time her trial came around, Fatima had seen neither hide nor hair of Melvin. The last shred of hope slipped through her fingers like the wind through the bars on her window. He had ghosted her, left her to face the consequences alone, while he probably lived it up with the stash of cash they'd risked everything for. In the courtroom, Fatima's eyes were dry. The tears had all been shed in the solitude of her cell. As she stood to face the judge, her voice was steady, her decision made. "I plead guilty, Your Honor," she said, each word a nail in her coffin, sealing her fate. The gavel came down like the final say of fate, guilty. The word echoed, a grim reminder of the price of misplaced trust. As she was led away, Fatima felt the weight of her chains and the heavier weight of betrayal. Melvin had manipulated her into this mess, and she had fallen for it, all for a love that turned out to be nothing but smoke and mirrors. In the solitude of her cell, Fatima vowed to rise again. This fall wasn't the end of her story. It was just a brutal beginning. The dawn of empowerment. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a soft golden light through the windows of Pearl's home, Fatima stood at the cusp of a new beginning. The tumultuous journey that had led her to this moment felt like both a lifetime and a fleeting instant. A paradox that mirrored the complexity of her transformation. In the quiet of the early morning, with her son asleep and the world around her bathed in the gentle hues of dawn, Fatima reflected on the path she had traversed. The shadows of manipulation and loss that had once threatened to consume her now lay behind, dispersed by the light of self-awareness and the warmth of genuine love from those who truly mattered. Pearl, the steadfast anchor in Fatima's stormy sea, continued to be a source of silent strength. Her prayers, never ceasing, had woven a protective tapestry around Fatima, guiding her through the darkness into the light. It was this unwavering support, coupled with the lessons learned from the pain of betrayal, that had ignited Fatima's journey toward empowerment. Now, as Fatima looked toward the horizon, she saw not the uncertainty and fear that once clouded her vision, but a future ripe with possibility. The realization that her worth was not tethered to the affections of others, but lay within her own heart was a revelation that had come at a great cost. Yet, it was a price she now understood was necessary for her growth, for the blossoming of her spirit into the resilient, empowered woman she had become. The steps toward building a life anchored in self-worth and independence were both daunting and exhilarating. Fatima embraced the challenge, fueled by the knowledge that she was not alone in her journey. Her family, a beacon of unconditional love and support, stood with her, their faith in her abilities a constant reminder of her strength. The dawn of empowerment brought with it a sense of renewal, a promise of healing and growth. Fatima's resolve to forge a path defined by her desires and dreams, rather than the expectations and manipulations of others, marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. It was a chapter filled with hope, with the pursuit of passions long suppressed, and the nurturing of bonds that were genuine and nurturing. As Fatima watched her son stir from his sleep, a symbol of new life and beginnings, she felt a surge of gratitude for the trials that had shaped her. They had torn her down only to build her up stronger, more aware of her worth, and more committed to a life of authenticity and love. The narrative of Thirsty for Love concludes with Fatima stepping into the light of her own empowerment, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of self-love. Her journey, marked by the pain of betrayal and the triumph of self-discovery, offers a message of hope and renewal to all who find themselves lost in the shadows. Fatima's story is more than a tale of love lost and found. It is a beacon for anyone seeking to reclaim their power, to build a life on the foundation of their own worth and dreams. As the dawn breaks on a new day, Fatima's journey reminds us that within each of us lies the strength to overcome adversity, to emerge from the darkness into the empowerment of our own making.